What's up, everyone? This is Ed from This Day in Metal, and today I'm very excited to be speaking with Sharlee D'Angelo, bassist for melodic death metal legends Arch Enemy. He's also currently a member of Spiritual Beggars and the Night Flight Orchestra. He's formerly played with Merciful Fate, King Diamond, Witchery, Dismember, Synergy, and a bunch of other bands I'm forgetting to list here. Arch Enemy is releasing their 12th studio album, Blood Dynasty, on March 28th through Century Media Records. Sharlee, thank you for joining me today. What's going on, man?
Hey Ed, not much. Just here talking to you.
So we're here first and foremost to talk about Blood Dynasty, right? So when asked
Yeah.
about the album, your bandmate Michael Amott said, "We definitely turned up the speed and aggression this time." Having spent some time with the record, I definitely agree with his assessment. This is definitely a really strong collection of songs, and the whole record flows so well. And I think that the songs really stick with you after only a few listens. What was the band's approach to writing this record?
I think basically the same as it always is. Try to come up with some really nice riffs here and there and piecing them together as songs. Uh as for it being more like speedy and aggressive, I don't really know why. I think that's probably just what came out at the moment. And so I guess we just went with it.
Yeah, so that's what's the typical songwriting process for you guys? What's it like?
Usually, I mean, I think all of the music on this album was written by Michael and Daniel, and I think it's whatever they came up with, they tried it out, pieced together simple demos for it, and see what worked out, and that's usually how it is because we're spread out in the world also a little bit, so a lot of it's done when we're far apart, but some stuff is done when we're sitting together as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys are pretty spread out between Elisa and I think Joey now is on guitar. Joey Concepcion. This is his first
Yeah.
album like recording with the band. I know he's toured with the band in the past, and he came in after Jeff Loomis departed the band, and he had previously been based in America. So, how did that change the dynamic at all with Joey in there instead of Jeff?
Not in the songwriting process. Because I mean, most of that was done before the switch happened. Uh,
Okay.
so not a lot, no.
Okay. So you guys have released four singles so far from the album. Dream Stealer, Liars and Thieves, the title track, Blood Dynasty, and just recently, Paper Tiger. I think you guys had the opportunity to play some of those songs live, Liars and Thieves and Dream Stealer, through your last run in Mexico and in Europe. What has the reaction been to that new material, both live and otherwise?
I mean, surprisingly, like very, very good. Dream Stealer was out before we hit the road in Europe. Uh, so that went down. And then we released Liars and Thieves sort of about a week and a half into the tour. But we started playing it before that, even before it was released. And people seemed to be really into it, even before they had heard it. So that was surprising. And because, I mean, a track like that, it's pretty old school. So we don't know if that's everybody's cup of tea, but apparently it was. So those two songs were two of the best ones in the sets, so, which was like, amazing.
Yeah, I mean the new those two are fast paced and they kind of punch you right in the mouth when you're listening to them. They're pretty aggressive and it kind of goes with the overall tone for the whole album, except there are a couple tracks on there that might surprise people. So Michael also said that there's a degree of familiarity in our sound, which he doesn't see as a problem because you're playing the music you love. But he said you've got to throw a couple curveballs in there each time and keep things interesting to spice it up. Can you tell the
Mm.
fans a little bit about what Michael's referring to there with a couple of the tracks on the album?
Not really. I don't quite know exactly what it is that he means, but I mean, it's kind of how we always work. We try to we try to like develop and evolve, within our little world, so to speak. So as he said, familiarity is in there. It does sound like us, but there are always new things that we discover ourselves. Within music overall, you come up with new things, and as I said, try to develop and evolve. Yeah, you have to just listen to it to see if you find something new.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what can you tell the people about any of the other tracks that haven't been released so far?
Uh, it's so hard to describe music in words, but I mean, there are, for example, for the first time ever, we've had we have a cover song on the actual album rather than it being like a bonus track. Um, and it's a ballad, which is not the first time we have a ballad, the second time, but it's also the first time we have a song in French. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like that's something that's a little bit different for us. And But it's cool because we have a singer who can speak French, and we have a singer who can sing a ballad. So and we had this. This is like an old favorite of ours, French band Blaspheme from back in the early '80s. So it's kind of a spooky power ballad. So uh, so that's like one of the things. But no, I mean there are some. I mean there are some new things here and there. Uh, but it's as I said, it's hard. It's so hard to describe.
Yeah. The listener really needs to hear it to understand. But I was
Yeah.
surprised when I gave the record a spin and I heard that ballad. I was very surprised. First and foremost, I was trying to figure out, okay, what language am I listening to now? And then after that, I was like, wow, this is a really, really well done cover. So I think,
Mm.
you know, does Elisa's range as a vocalist open up more territory like that for you guys? Like, would you have done that in the past, you think? Or was this just something that came about? You were planning to have it as a bonus track and it just kind of you were like, wow, this is pretty good. Let's throw this on the actual album.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's exactly what happened. We just thought, let's give it a try, just because she knows the language. And we couldn't really have done stuff like this. Well, not before Elisa, since we've never had a clean singing singer before. Uh, and she's definitely she's been like really sort of like stretching and broadening her range as well. So I think her work on that song is just amazing. I mean, it's she puts like put so much soul into it.
Yeah, I think that really comes through when you listen to it, and I think people are going to be surprised, and I think they're going to love it. But aside from that song, the entire album as a whole, because it flows so well. I think it's really a strong collection of songs, and I think that once the fans hear the full complement of songs, I think they're going to absolutely love it.
Mm.
You guys are also set to start a North American tour that runs through from mid-April through mid-May. What are you guys planning for that? Like, what can they expect? Are you gonna try and work more new songs into that set, or are you gonna stick with what you got already?
No, we're definitely gonna put a few more of few more songs of the new album in. So which one it'll be, we're not quite sure yet. But yeah, so we like to sort of like mix it up. We can't have too many from the new album, but you'd have it maybe like like say at least like four, maybe five, depending on.
Yeah, and then mix in some of the classics from the old. Your standard set list kind of spans a lot of the eras of the band. So, I mean, that'll be a nice complement to those new tracks as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I want to talk about your career a little bit. Who would you say the biggest influences on your playing were?
Oh, I mean there are so many, but for me, I mean, it started out with my first favorite bass player was Steve Priest from English band Sweet.
Okay.
He's still one of my favorite. Yeah, he was still one of my favorites. And then it's like Roger Glover and Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple. After that, some of the metal bass players. I mean, Peter Baltes from Accept was there. Cliff Williams from AC/DC. People
Hmm.
like that.
So like when I was looking, I was looking into like who you said your influences were. It said that a lot of them come through as like classic rock influences, and that
Mm,
did that kind of play into like when you got into the Night Flight Orchestra, which focuses more on that like 70s and 80s style rock. Is that like you wanted to like an outlet for that?
absolutely. I mean, it's I mean, all the other type of music that I listen to is sort of like it kind of found an outlet, definitely. And playing with people who also want to, it was sort of like-minded music taste wise. So like getting together with people like that. So, and means that you can sort of you can discover new sides of your own musicality.
I was gonna say, does that help your playing when you're playing in a more metal focused band like Arch Enemy, like having all those different contrasting styles?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like everything that you learn can be, you know, can be adapted and put basically anywhere. It's just like, your ear is the only judge of that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny to me that all these guys. I was looking into Night Flight Orchestra, and I'm like, all these guys I know from like Swedish melodic death metal bands are playing like this awesome like 70s 80s style rock. I thought I just found it funny to me because I know them for I know you guys for something completely different, and you're here
Yeah.
and you're playing, that seems like a fun band to be in when you're playing with them. Am I correct
Yeah.
in that assumption?
It it is that. I mean, it's all based in joy. And it's like, you know what? You, like when, guys hang out together, you have to have an activity, be it football
Yes.
or beer pong, you
Yeah.
know. But for us, it was classic rock. So
Uh-huh.
so basically because we wanted to hang out, so we needed an activity, and that was it. So,
So
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
so your excuse for hanging out was just playing 70s and 80s rock.
Exactly.
It's perfect.
And then it was never serious in that sense. We just like, okay, well, once you've done something that you like and you're happy with it, you want other people to hear it. So I think that's why we just had to record stuff and release it somehow.
Well, yeah, I mean it's great stuff. I've been getting into it. I honestly I didn't really know much about it before I started looking into this, and now I'm listening to it and I love it. So, I mean, good on you guys. I hope you guys keep going with that. Um,
Well, thank you.
I wanted to ask about the early part of your career. So you ended up playing with King Diamond and Merciful Fate, but that was fairly earlier in your career, if not like one of your first gigs, right?
I think Merciful Fate was my first like real professional gig. Yes, like made my first U.S. tour and you know got to see the world a little bit.
Yeah, that's a hell of a gig to get as your first gig, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite the contrast from like playing small little youth clubs and things before that.
Yeah, so how did that come to be? How did you end up joining Merciful Fate that early?
um, it was because the original drummer of Merciful Fate wasn't involved, and they had one guy on the first reunion album called In the Shadows. They had a guy named Morten Nielsen who played drums, and for
Hmm.
some reason he couldn't do it. And Timmy Hansen, uh, who who's the original bass player, he couldn't do it. I mean, he could do like the first few gigs, and but then he couldn't do the U.S. tour. So they asked me because when they started to rehearse, it was him. So they brought in Snowy Shaw on drums, and Snowy's a very, very old friend of mine. Uh,
Okay.
so it's just Hank Sherman and Snowy Shaw rehearsing like all the old songs. And so I said, well, if you wanted to do it as a trio, I said at least I can, provide backup as a bass so you could do the solos. And Hank said, yeah, why not? And then it turned out, I mean, it's a lot of stuff that Hank didn't remember that I did. So I actually taught him some of the songs or helped him learn them. So I weaseled my way in like that. So when it
Okay.
became time for the tour, Hank called me and said, like, would you be available? And I said, yeah, let me just check my schedule.
Yeah, I think I've got time to tour with King Diamond and Merciful Fate. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll work.
Yeah,
So you stayed on with Merciful Fate for about 4 albums, if I'm not mistaken,
that's
and
right. Yeah,
and then you, but by the time Merciful Fate's 9 came out, you had already recorded Burning Bridges with Arch Enemy, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
that's right. Yeah,
and you'd also recorded a synergy record, Beware the Heavens, that came out within a month. You had Merciful Fate 9, you had Arch Enemy, Burning Bridges, and you had Synergy, Beware the Heavens. Is that right?
yeah. That I think that's right. Yeah, I think they all came out in the summer then, of
Yeah.
'99.
So explain to me how it went from Merciful Fate to Arch Enemy.
It was basically I've known Michael since early '90s, and then we know we have talked throughout the years, like here and there, and then he called me up. I hadn't spoken to him for about a year or something like that, and then all of a sudden, it's like he calls me, and we talk about this and this and that, and then he asked me, says like, well, we just been to Japan, and our current bass player didn't work out, so and we're recording an album, we're gearing up to record an album. So would you be available? And I said, sure, absolutely. Being a big fan of Arch Enemy, I said
Mhm.
absolutely, it would be great. Uh, and uh, and it's like, so this was on a Thursday, and then on a Monday we went in to record the album.
Okay, so it was fairly quick. Fairly quick. You come, you're like, all right, I'm doing this, and then you're on the album, and then you're basically in the
Yeah,
band, and you
yeah.
really haven't looked back, huh?
No, I have not.
I mean, you've obviously always
So
been involved in a lot of different side projects too. I actually want to ask you a question about that Synergy record. That's the only one to have both Jesper from In Flames and Alexi from Children of Bodom on it, right?
yep, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
What are your memories of making that record?
It was a lot of fun. It was just basically because Kimberly had moved to Gothenburg, and we had some friends in common. And then she said she needed a bass player, and at that time I wasn't really doing anything, so I was just like, "Yeah,
Mm.
sure, absolutely, and do it." And it was fun. It's great memories from there was a lot of like hanging out after recording sessions and stuff, and that's how I got to know Alexi, and
Mhm.
he's a great guy to work with.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about him, just, any memories of him from that time or having known him.
It was, I mean, he was so young. I think he was like 19 or
Hmm.
something back then. He was like super super young, and he was so talented. But I was trying to like when it came to like his leads, I was trying to on some songs push him more into a more sort of like rock orientated type of playing instead of like just doing the neoclassical stuff.
Hmm.
And I plugged in for one of the songs I plugged in a wah pedal. It was like, here, use this. And then it's like I unscrewed the whammy bar from his guitar.
He's a
but
big
he
fan
he
of that
like
one.
yeah, but he liked it. He's like, okay, like here's the challenge and limitations.
Yeah.
So but of course he's like, whatever he did, he aced it. So yeah, he was a great guy, very 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 funny man as well.
Yeah, he was a hell of a guitar player, and from what you're saying, he seemed like a great dude, and it's really a shame that, he's no longer with us, but thank you for sharing that with me. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. I've been a huge, I've been a fan since that was 99. That was probably around the time their second album came out, so that's pretty crazy. That's pretty early on, and he was 19 years old.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Wild to me. Anyway, Arch Enemy is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. You joined the band in 99, so you're coming up on 25, 26 years with them. What do you
Mm.
credit the band's longevity to? and Success too. Even with there's been several, lineup changes between vocalists, guitarists, but it seems like between you, Michael, and Daniel, it's been pretty consistent there. Like, what do you credit the band's longevity and success to?
I think you know, being stupid enough to never give it up. It's no, but it is that because we really like it. We like there's certain types of music that we like, and that we find is missing a little bit, and then so we just try to create that ourselves, and we like each other's company as well. So I think it's that's the friendship part is a big part of it. Um, but no, I think it's just like, and and as a Michael, he's such a visionary as well.
Hmm.
He has his mind set on something, and it's you could just tag along for the ride. It's always fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, he's been at it for so long, but before Arch Enemy with Carcass and everything, and now with Arch Enemy, you
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
this is your 12th studio album. Blood Dynasty, March 28th through Century Media Records. You can pre-order the record there. The first four singles from the album are available on all major streaming platforms. You guys are hitting cities across North America with Fit for an Autopsy starting in the middle of April. Sharlee, thank you so much for joining me today. Best of luck with the tour with Blood Dynasty. Like I said, I love the record. I think it's great. I think the fans are going to love it. And all the other various projects you're involved with. I didn't even get to talk about Spiritual Beggars. I love Spiritual Beggars. Um, so thank you so much for joining me today, and best of luck out there.
Oh, thank you so much. Nice talking to you. Take
Absolutely,
care.
you as well.
All right. All right. Take care. Bye.
Take it easy.